All right, so are you ready to dive into something pretty fascinating today?
Always ready.
Okay, good, because we're going to be looking at the Fatima apparitions today.
Ooh, that's a great one.
Yeah, and we've got some really interesting sources here. Historical accounts, the prophecies themselves,
Right.
and even some perspectives from skeptics to kind of round things out a bit.
It's one of those events that really just continues to draw people in, even today, for
Totally.
1917.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not just a historical thing. It still really resonates with people.
absolutely. So let's jump into it.
Okay.
Let's unpack some of the key details of what went down at Fatima,
All right.
explore the impact it's had, and consider both the believer and the skeptic viewpoints.
Just good.
Okay, so picture this 1917 rural Portugal, 3 young shepherd children,
Okay.
Lucia dos Santos and her cousins, Jacinta and Francisco Marto.
Okay.
And they're living their lives, pretty simple lives amidst the backdrop of World War I.
It was a time of great upheaval, too, right? Not just because of the war, but Portugal itself was having some issues.
Right,
I
exactly.
mean, their lives were probably full of daily chores, but also deep faith.
Right.
And, well, childhood wonder.
And then, boom, their world changes in a really dramatic way.
Okay.
Between May and October, they have 6 encounters with the Virgin Mary.
Wow.
And they described her as this beautiful lady dressed in white, just radiating peace and love.
Can you imagine being a child and having that experience?
I mean, it's almost like a fairy tale, isn't it?
It is.
But instead of a whimsical forest,
Right.
we're in the middle of, a world war.
Yeah, a world consumed by conflict.
Exactly. And that contrast, between the darkness of war and this ethereal beauty of their visions,
Right.
it's a big part of what makes this whole thing so captivating.
Unbelievable.
But okay, here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
During these apparitions, the Virgin Mary revealed 3 secrets to the children,
Okay.
and each one just kind of adds this whole other layer to the story.
They're really at the heart of the whole Fatima phenomenon.
Yeah, they took it from like local curiosity to something with global significance.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's break down these secrets a little bit.
Okay.
The first one was a vision of hell.
Oh, wow.
And the sources we have, they describe it as terrifying.
Like really bad.
So bad that it drove these children to pray really hard for the conversion of sinners.
It's such a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah, and it really taps into that core belief within Catholicism.
Right.
The idea of hell as like a consequence of sin.
Right.
And it instilled this sense of urgency in these kids to spread the word.
It also sparked some theological debate about hell and God's mercy.
Yeah, that continues today.
Wow.
Then we have the second secret,
Okay.
and this is one that has really generated a lot of discussion.
I bet.
It was a warning about World War II,
Oh, wow.
and this was revealed years before the war even started.
So regardless of your personal beliefs, that's a pretty remarkable coincidence.
Yeah, for believers, it's seen as like divine intervention.
Yeah.
Proof that the children were actually given a glimpse into the future.
Right.
And for skeptics, this is where they really start digging in and trying to find other explanations.
Right.
But we'll get to those a little bit later. First,
Right.
let's tackle the third secret, which was basically shrouded in mystery for decades.
The Vatican didn't reveal it until the year 2000,
Right.
which obviously just made everyone more curious.
Totally. I mean,
Definitely.
for years, people wondered, like, what could be so sensitive that they kept it hidden for so long?
Yeah, it's like a real-life thriller or something.
I know, right? So what was the third secret?
Lay it on me.
It was a vision of a bishop dressed in white being killed.
Oh, wow.
And this has been widely interpreted as a prophecy about the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II in 1981.
And he believed that Our Lady of Fatima saved his life during the attack.
Right. He even visited Fatima and placed the bullet that almost killed him in the crown of the statue of the Virgin Mary.
Wow.
So that just added so much weight to the whole Fatima story.
Especially for Catholics.
Right. And it's important to point out that the third secret is also seen as a broader warning about the persecution of Christians.
Right.
Which has unfortunately played out in parts of the world.
Sadly, yeah.
But the connection to Pope John Paul II is definitely one of the most talked about parts of the whole event.
I can see why. And then we come to, probably the most well-known part of Fatima,
Oh, okay.
the Miracle of the Sun.
Yeah, so set the scene for us.
All right, so October 13th, 1917, the day of that final apparition,
Mm.
and tens of thousands of people have gathered near the site where the children have been seeing the Virgin Mary.
Okay.
But the weather is terrible, like pouring rain,
Oh, wow.
soaking everyone to the bone, and then all of a sudden
What happens?
it stops raining, the clouds part, and the sun comes out.
Okay.
But this isn't your everyday sun.
Okay.
Witnesses say it starts dancing in the sky, changing colors, and then these rays of light just sweep across the landscape.
Whoa.
Some people even say it looked like the sun was zigzagging towards the earth like the world was ending.
Wow, so this wasn't just a couple of people, right?
No, 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 like a huge crowd.
And people even saw it miles away.
That's right. Even newspapers, at the time, they reported on this unusual solar event.
Even if they were skeptical.
Even the skeptics, and we have first-hand accounts from all kinds of people, believers, non-believers, all describing what they saw.
Okay, so this is what really takes the Fatima story to, like, a global level.
Yeah, it went from a small village to the whole world,
Okay, but obviously there's debate about what actually happened that day.
of course.
So, what do the skeptics say?
Well, one explanation is this thing called a sundog.
A sundog. What's that?
So it's these bright spots that appear on either side of the sun,
Okay.
caused by sunlight refracting through ice crystals.
So that makes it look like...
It could look like multiple suns or a halo.
Okay, interesting.
Another idea is that it was an optical illusion. You know, if you stare at the sun too long,
Right.
you start seeing after images and things get distorted.
So the skeptics are basically saying it was just a natural phenomenon.
Right. That people just thought they were seeing something miraculous.
But the believers have some counter-arguments, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they point to the huge number of witnesses and how their descriptions are all pretty similar,
Right.
even though they come from different backgrounds.
Okay.
Plus the fact that even skeptics reported on it.
It does make you think.
You can't forget the context. You know, this happened during the final apparition,
Right.
which was already a super significant moment.
So for them, it was a sign from God.
It was a divine sign, a confirmation that what the children saw and heard was real.
Not just a random weather event.
Exactly. For believers, it was the supernatural breaking into the physical world.
Okay, so we've got these apparitions, the secrets, this incredible miracle.
It's quite a story.
What kind of impact did all of this have on the Catholic Church?
A massive impact.
In what way?
Well, for one, Fatima became a huge pilgrimage site.
Okay.
Millions of visitors from everywhere.
Wow.
It went from this quiet little village to a global center of prayer and devotion.
So like a ripple effect.
Yeah, this one event in a tiny Portuguese village goes out and touches the lives of so many people.
And changes the Catholic faith?
That's right. And it went all the way to the Vatican.
Okay.
Pope Pius XII, he consecrated Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Because of the second secret.
Yeah, Lucia, one of the visionaries, she asked him to do it.
So that's all tied back to that call for prayer and penance to stop war.
Exactly. And many see that as a turning point in how the church dealt with the Soviet Union during the Cold War.
Wow. And then there's Pope John Paul II.
Right. He was incredibly connected to Fatima.
And he credited Our Lady of Fatima with saving his life.
Remember, he made those pilgrimages there.
Right. And that really brought Fatima to a whole new generation of Catholics.
His devotion was really powerful. And then in 1984, he consecrated the world to the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Really cementing the importance of Fatima for the church.
Right, in its teachings and everything it does. And then
That happened in 2017.
on the 100th anniversary of the first apparition,
Okay.
Jacinta and Francisco Marto, they were declared saints by the church.
Wow.
So now they have a place in religious history forever.
Really solidifying the importance of the Fatima events.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've gone through the history, the prophecies, the miracle, and how it all affected the church.
It's definitely a story that keeps you thinking.
It really does. But here's a question I keep coming back to. Why should someone who's not Catholic or even religious care about what happened in Fatima?
That's a really good question, and it kind of gets at why Fatima is still so fascinating to so many people.
So what are some of the themes you see in Fatima that kind of go beyond religion?
Well, I think first and foremost, Fatima speaks to that need we all have for hope,
Right.
especially when times are tough.
Especially then.
Remember, these kids were living through a world war.
Full of uncertainty and fear.
Exactly, and then these visions appear, offering peace and comfort and purpose.
It's almost like a light in the darkness.
And that desire for something to believe in, something bigger than ourselves.
That goes beyond religion.
Totally. It's a human thing. We see it all the time in war. Natural disasters, even personal struggles.
People need something to hold on to.
They need something to make sense of it all. And Fatima, with its message of hope and this idea of divine intervention, it really speaks to that.
It gives people something to believe in.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so what else stands out to you as a universal theme?
Well, another thing, and this might surprise some people, is that Fatima shows us how powerful individual actions can be.
Even if you don't believe in miracles.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. 3 young kids in a small village have these experiences.
Right.
and it ends up impacting the whole world.
It's kind of like that butterfly effect, but on a spiritual level.
Right, one seemingly tiny event sets off a chain reaction that we can't even predict.
And Fatima shows us that anyone, even in the most unexpected circumstances, can make a difference.
Absolutely, and I think the last thing Fatima really does is make us examine our own beliefs.
How we come to believe what we believe.
Exactly, because this story has been looked at from so many angles: religious, scientific, historical,
So
psychological.
many different perspectives.
It reminds us that there's no one right way to see the world.
And that none of us have all the answers.
Right. And whether you're a true believer or a total skeptic, I think it's important to think about why you believe what you believe
To be open to different viewpoints.
and to realize that we don't know everything.
That's a good point. So when it comes down to it, Fatima is really a story about human nature, the power of faith, and those mysteries of the universe that we may never fully understand.
Well said.
Let's have an incredible deep dive into Fatima, and now we want to leave you with one final thought to think about. What is it about Fatima that continues to draw millions of people every year, searching for peace and meaning, and maybe even a touch of the miraculous